dear. I'm so embarrassed. Damn, it's been almost a year since I've last posted a vlog. Really sorry about that, guys. You know, sometimes I just felt like I just wanted to live life instead of having to worry about recording it and editing it, figuring out what to show you guys, how to make the story compelling. So yeah, I'm really sorry. In any case, today I decided to pick up the camera and actually get back to it. My husband and I landed yesterday. Sorry if I'm out of breath. I'm in a very hilly city. We landed yesterday in Lisbon, Portugal. First time visiting Portugal. Really excited about it. The weather's beautiful today, and it will be during our whole entire trip, so we're very thankful for that. And one of the reasons, two reasons actually why we decided to visit Lisbon was, one was because we found a really cheap flight. I think our flight was about $450 US round trip from DC. And secondly, because we're still in a pandemic, which makes things really difficult for traveling, obviously. And Portugal has one of the highest rates in vaccinations in the entire world. If I'm not mistaken, they're hovering just under 90%, which is insanely incredible. So an effort to not miss out and further delay our love for travels, we're like, Portugal will be a great place to go and explore and still feel safe. People here are still following, you know, WHO protocols, wearing masks indoors. Some are choosing to go outside, which is really nice. So I'm excited to show you guys the city. I'm excited to be here. This is country number 27 for me, so it's always exciting getting a new stamp in that passport. In any case, I'm really excited to show you guys around. This is an odd trip where I didn't have much time to put together an itinerary as I usually do. So I do have some things that we want to see today, but in terms of order and itinerary, I just didn't prepare one. So we're gonna have a little bit of spontaneity today, which is a good thing. And then the one thing that we do have planned today, which I'm super excited about, is a tour. It's called African Tours Lisbon. I'll link it down below. But basically Portugal was very influential, for lack of a better word, in the transatlantic slave trade. They're, if I'm not mistaken, one of the first European countries to transport slaves from Africa into Europe and over to the Americas. And I think that's such an important part of my history, coming from the US and with so many other descendants of Africans around the world, that it's important that I'm here to learn more about that history. So I'm excited to highlight a little bit more about that later for you guys. Anyways, enough of my blabbering on. I barely have breath. Let's get the day started. Be prepared to walk some hills. Ladies, if I were you, I would recommend bringing comfortable shoes because all the sidewalks are tiled, and depending on the climate or the weather, it could be kind of dangerous and slippery. So make sure you bring or wear shoes that have good grip and that you're able to maintain some type of balance because it's not completely leveled. Alright, the first stop of the day, Igreja de São Domingo, which translates essentially to Saint Dominic's church. It was first established in the 1300th century, and then later it was destroyed in the 1755 earthquake, which basically devastated a major portion of the city, so it ended up having to be rebuilt at some point. This used to be the largest church in Lisbon at one point as well. So let's take a look inside. About that bookstore back there when I was doing some research for coming to Lisbon, but it's actually the oldest operating bookstore in the world, and it holds the Guinness World Record. I cannot recall since how long. I'll put it somewhere here on the screen, but it's mind-blowing.
For the diaspora, but unfortunately there's nothing. So I just started reading and just my own knowledge, and the idea just came to create the African Lisbon Tour. What I'm going to share with you different aspects of the African history of Portugal, the slave trade, how Portugal started. The first part of the transaction, the first transaction of a slave that happened in Europe.
So we just met our tour guide, Naki. Super cool dude. He says he's been in Portugal now about 8 or 7 years, if I'm not mistaken, and he's been doing this tour for about 6 years. And it just kind of started based off his interest of African diaspora, because Lisbon is such a diverse city. And then in doing that research, you learn that the Portuguese were the first to start trading slaves throughout Europe and across the Atlantic. So where we met, the Praça do Comércio, is where slaves embarked or debarked. I don't know what the
Debarked.
It's debarked, right? Okay, it's where they landed. Jesus. And were processed, and from there, which is where we're walking to now, they were taken to a place called the House of Slaves, because oftentimes the trip was long, many weeks, if not months, and the slaves came very weak, sometimes ill and sick. So in order to prepare them for the markets, they would house them here, feed them, make them do exercises, and kind of build up their physical strength in order to be sold off into the markets. Naki was explaining to us earlier in terms of the number and amount of slaves that were brought. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty. The first started with just two, a man and a woman, and then later they brought several hundred, and from that point it went on into the millions, but there's no official record because a lot of the records were either destroyed in the earthquake of 1755 here in Lisbon. Shortly after, there was a fire, there was a tsunami as well, and oftentimes the records of the enslaved were purposefully destroyed as well. So this is the issue that we have. A lot of us don't really know our history and lineage because, you know, it was taken away from us in essence. So it's very unfortunate. What's up, guys? Good morning. Day 2, we're back at it. It's a beautiful day here in Lisbon. It's gonna be a little bit warmer than yesterday, which I'm excited about, which means we can really take advantage of the outdoors. Yesterday was a beautiful start to our trip here in Lisbon. We're spending about 5 nights here total, which most people would say is a little bit more than necessary. I would say about 3 days will give you enough time to visit all the points of interest, as well as taking a day trip out to Sintra, which we plan to do at some point. But we kind of wanted to just take our time perusing through the city, visiting every nook and cranny, and not feel rushed. And also we took a day to catch up on our sleep because, you know, traveling 6 hours into the future gives you a little bit of jet lag. So today I don't know what we have planned, honestly. We're just kind of winging it, but we're gonna take you guys along for the ride. cod for the first time, which is a very popular fish dish here in Portugal. The hubby's having a ribeye. What do you think, babe?
Looks good.
Looks really good, right? I'm excited to go in. It's like creamy. It's delicious. One of the more famous desserts here in Portugal is called pastel de nata. It's basically just like a custard dessert. One of the shops that came highly recommended is a bakery called Manchega. It's located on the main plaza strip here in the center of Lisbon. There's also another famous bakery, but it's a little bit further away near Berlin Tower. So hopefully we'll visit that one tomorrow. But I want to try one of these. Making a mess. It's good. It's like a warm custard. Has like a cinnamon taste to it. Crispy, flaky, buttery. Definitely, if you come visit Lisbon, you have to try one of these.
Alright.
So one of the things I love most about this city and about Europe in general is that it's a very commutable city. Lisbon in particular, they have several forms of transportation, several modes, whether it be taking a tram or taking the bus. You also have Ubers here, you have tuk-tuks here. And then my favorite mode of transportation is using these Chevrolets and walking, because you get a different vantage points of the city. And as you notice, throughout the city, Lisbon is very colorful. And also there's art riddled all throughout the central part of Lisbon. For example, if you span out, you see the floors are all scattered with these beautiful mosaic tiles. And this has kind of been translated to the colonial times that the Portuguese once controlled, for example, in Brazil. So my husband just mentioned we were in Brazil in 2016. This right here reminds us, is very reminiscent of Copacabana Beach, because Copacabana is just like this kind of art mosaic tile all along the strip and coastline of the beach. So it's just beautiful. Just make sure when you're traveling in these cities, don't get stuck in a car. Sometimes you gotta use those legs and walk around because you're missing some of the best parts of the city. Oh, and fun fact, one thing I read about earlier when we were spending our time in that really lovely bookshop is that the trams here, which, you know, they've been using trams here for a long time, but in the early 20th century, they converted to electric trams. Some of the first ones were actually built by companies in the US. Along with, you know, they have the Golden Gate-ish bridge here in Lisbon. The iconic bridge was also built by US steel companies. So it's just cool to see, you know, those little connections. And it's one of the things that I love most about traveling, because the world is so interconnected and, you know, you just feel at home. I feel at home here. It's very nice. Another relaxing yet wonderful day here in Lisbon. And I just want to give a special note and thanks and shout out to my husband, who puts up with me and carrying my 10-pound camera and my bag. I love you, babe.
Love you too,
You guys, I'll see you in the morning. Bom dia, gente. Second to last day here in Lisbon. Actually, we have two more nights. Day 3. We woke up this morning feeling refreshed. Another beautiful day. I definitely recommend that when you guys visit Lisbon that you break up the points of interest in terms of different neighborhoods. Lisbon is kind of a big city, and so sometimes it can take some time to get from one place to the other. So this time we're gonna go visit the Belém Tower side of the city, but first we're gonna go eat. Chance, excuse me, I'm eating. Be sure to come and check out a food hall in the city center of Lisbon called Timar Market. Basically has about, I would say, 2 to 3 dozen restaurants, to include some of the more famous Portuguese chefs around the city, selling, you know, regional, provincial, artisan foods, wines, spirits. It's delicious. And there seems to be a nice crowd. They open at 10 in the morning. I'm pretty sure they're open all day. One side of this warehouse is broken down to all of the restaurants, and then the other side is the more traditional market where you can buy meats, vegetables, cheeses, things like that. Anyways, definitely worth visiting. One, 2, 3, 4. Let's play thumb war. Stop cheating.
You stop cheating.
Ow.
Turn your hand.
That hurts. Bit of a process to get in here.
Where's the church?
This is a monastery, my love. The name of this monastery is called Geronimo's. It was built in the early 1600s, just for some housekeeping rules in case you get a little bit confused, as we were. When you arrive, it's a huge building. It almost looks like a parliament type of house. In any case, there are 3 lines. One line is for free admission inside of the church. One line is to purchase tickets, which if you don't purchase them in advance, you'll have to get into that line. And the other line is the entrance into the monastery itself, which you need your ticket to get in. The ticket line is furthest down. If you're facing the monastery, it's furthest down to the left. And then the free admission line is the furthest to the right next to the entrance line to the monastery. It's about 12 euros per person to get in here, so it's kind of expensive, but when in Lisbon, what are you gonna do? There are a few ways to get here. I'd highly recommend that you probably catch the bus or the tram because it's about 3 or 4 miles outside of the city center of Lisboa. Still generally in the area. It's in a neighborhood called Belém, but it's not the closest for walking. We hired a tuk-tuk just to get a little bit of a different experience and some fresh air. It was way overly priced. I don't recommend that, but it was a fun ride nonetheless. However, you can take the tram or the bus for a few euros and it drops you off literally 5 minutes walking from the monastery. Now let's go inside. Our next stop, across the street on the water side, on the river side from Geronimo's Monastery, is Padrão de Descobrimentos, which translated means Fathers of Discovery in Portuguese. And there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this statue. It was built in, I believe, the early to mid 20th century. And basically, it commemorates, you know, the Portuguese explorers that discovered the New World. And so, being that there's a lot of wokeness, as there should be, I think sometimes, or I think this statue, certainly within recent history, has started a bunch of conversations and has become a little bit more controversial during recent times. So we're gonna go check it out, see who's up there. It's kind of shaped in the form of a ship with these people romanticized looking out towards the Tagus River. Yeah, let's just see it. comfortable shoes. All right, first stop on our tour of Sintra is the Moorish castle, and it's beautiful. Check out these views. Did not realize that my husband was afraid of heights. The steps up to the top or along this fort wall are very steep and narrow. So when you come, just make sure you bring comfortable shoes and catch your breath as much as possible. You okay back there, babe?
Have fun.
Alright guys, and just like that, we're back in the city center here at Lisbon. I want to just thank all of you guys for watching. I know it's been a long year and a half, going on 2 years, that we haven't really been able to travel due to the pandemic. So I surely hope that all of you guys have been keeping safe and will continue to keep safe as the world begins to open back up and restrictions start to kind of fade away, hopefully sometime here in the near future. I will say that my overall impression of Lisbon was 10 out of 10. I love that we could walk the entire city. I love that we could take the train to the outer neighborhoods, and I honestly am really looking forward to coming back here and possibly visiting some of the beach towns in the northern part of the country. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video this far, and if you did, and if you found it helpful, be kind, leave a thumbs up. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one.